I installed a hidden camera in our bedroom. What I saw made me gasp. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to spy on my own spouse. I always believed that if you had to resort to things like checking phones or setting up cameras, the relationship was already over. But sometimes, your gut tells you something before your brain can catch up. It started with small things. My wife Rachel had been acting off for weeks, locking her phone, stepping outside to take calls, suddenly working late when she never used to. At first I brushed it off. We had been together for 7 years, married for 5. I trusted her. But then I started noticing things I couldn't ignore. The bed smelled like cologne that wasn't mine. Our bedroom rug, which we never moved, was suddenly shifted slightly to the left. One day, I found a strand of dark hair on our pillow. Rachel's was blonde. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe there was a logical explanation for everything. Maybe she had a new perfume I hadn't noticed before. Maybe she had moved the rug while cleaning. Maybe the hair was from a coworker or friend. But those little things piled up, one after the other, until it was impossible to ignore. My gut kept whispering that something wasn't right. I brought it up to Rachel once, casually, testing the waters. "You've been working late a lot lately," I said one evening as we sat down for dinner. "Everything okay?" She barely looked up from her plate. "Yeah, just a big project coming up." "Which project?" She hesitated for just a second, so quick that if I hadn't been watching closely, I might have missed it. "Just one of the new accounts." Rachel worked in marketing. Her projects weren't top secret, but she never used vague answers like that. Normally, she would have gone into detail, telling me all about it, complaining about the client, the deadlines, the endless emails. Instead, she just took another bite of her food, clearly hoping I would drop it. I didn't push. Instead, I started paying closer attention. The next time she left for a late meeting, I checked the location on her phone. It was off. She had never turned off her location before. A pit formed in my stomach. But I still told myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was just a glitch. Then, 2 days later, I noticed a fresh red mark on her neck. She claimed it was from scratching herself in her sleep. I felt like I was losing my mind. Every time I started to convince myself I was being paranoid, something else happened to pull me back in. I was stuck in this limbo, where I didn't want to believe the worst, but the evidence kept stacking up. So, one afternoon while she was out, I made a decision. I bought a small, discreet camera and hid it in our bedroom. It wasn't about catching her, it was about proving to myself that I was wrong, that this was all in my head. I set it up facing the bed, making sure it was well hidden. Then, I waited. That night, nothing happened. The next night, the same. By the third night, I started feeling ridiculous. Maybe I really had imagined everything. Maybe I had let a few coincidences spiral into something that wasn't there. I even thought about taking the camera down, but on the 4th night, everything changed. Rachel had told me she had another late meeting. I acted normal, kissed her goodbye, and said I'd see her later. But instead of going about my night as usual, I sat in my car outside our house, waiting. 2 hours passed. Then finally her car pulled into the driveway. But she wasn't alone. A man stepped out of the passenger seat. My heart slammed against my ribs as I watched Rachel lead him to our front door. He was taller than me, dark-haired, wearing a fitted suit like he had just come from work. I didn't recognize him. He wasn't a friend, wasn't a coworker I had met before. He was a stranger. And Rachel was smiling at him the way she used to smile at me. I gripped the steering wheel, forcing myself to stay put. I wanted to storm inside, demand answers, throw him out of my house, but I didn't. Because I needed to be smart. If I walked in now, she'd cry, she'd lie, she'd spin some excuse, and I wouldn't have proof. So, I let them go inside, and then I waited. The next morning, while Rachel was in the shower, I opened my laptop and checked the footage. At first, nothing. Just the empty bedroom, the usual stillness. Then the door opened, and there they were. Rachel. And him. They were laughing, completely comfortable with each other, like this wasn't the first time. My stomach twisted as I watched him touch her, the way she leaned into him, the way she kissed him on the bed we shared. They had no idea they were being watched. I forced myself to keep watching, even though every second felt like a knife to the chest. I needed to see how far this had gone, how long they had been doing this behind my back, and judging by how casual they were, it wasn't new. I sat there, staring at the screen, long after the video ended. My hands were cold, my breathing slow and steady. I thought I would feel rage. I thought I would want to smash something, scream, throw her out immediately, but I didn't. I felt calm, because now I had everything I needed. Rachel had no idea that her little secret was about to come crashing down. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to, but I knew if I did, she'd lie. She'd cry, act confused, gaslight me into thinking I was seeing things that weren't there. That was what cheaters did. They turned the blame around, made you question reality. I wasn't giving her that chance. Instead, I planned. The first thing I did was copy the footage onto multiple devices. A USB drive, my laptop, my phone, even cloud storage. I wasn't taking any risks. Then, I started digging. If she had been bold enough to bring another man into our house, into our bed, there was no way this was a one-time thing. I checked her texts first. Nothing. I wasn't surprised. Rachel wasn't sloppy, but people like her always thought they were smarter than they actually were. So I checked her email. Still nothing. Then I opened her laptop. That's where I found everything. Hidden in a folder labeled Work Docs were hundreds of messages between her and the man from the video. His name was Daniel. He was a client, her client. They had been meeting in secret for over a year. They had taken weekend business trips together, used company cards for expensive dinners, and even booked a hotel while I was away visiting family. I felt nothing as I scrolled through the messages. No shock, no sadness, just a cold, detached understanding of who she really was. She had looked me in the eye every single day and lied. She had told me she loved me while sneaking around behind my back, letting another man touch her, treating her home like a damn motel. And the worst part? She wasn't even sorry. One of her messages to Daniel stood out more than the others. Rachel, I wish I could just leave, but it's complicated. He's comfortable, stable. You know how it is, stable. That was what I was to her. Not a husband. Not someone she loved. Just stability. A paycheck. A comfortable life she wasn't ready to let go of. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of leaving on her terms. She didn't get to win, so I made my move. The next day, while she was at work, I printed out the messages. All of them. Every lie, every excuse, every little plan she had made with Daniel. I placed the stack neatly on the kitchen counter, right where she'd see it the moment she walked in. Then, I sent a copy to her boss. Rachel had crossed a serious line. Her company had strict policies about relationships with clients. It was an immediate termination offense. She thought she could cheat on me and walk away unscathed. She had no idea what was coming. That evening, I waited. Rachel walked in, set her bag down, and stopped when she saw the stack of papers waiting for her. She didn't reach for them right away. Instead, she looked at me, like she was trying to gauge just how much I knew. I didn't say a word. Eventually, she picked up the first page and started reading. Her hands moved faster as she flipped through the rest, scanning every message, every receipt, every detail she had tried to keep hidden. By the time she looked up, I could already see it. She knew there was no way out of this. "This isn't what it looks like," she said. I let the moment stretch. She was searching for an angle, some way to spin it, to twist it into something that didn't make her look exactly like what she was. I wasn't giving her that chance. She let out a slow breath. "I can explain." I nodded toward the papers. "You already did. Stable, comfortable, you know how it is." Her face tightened. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then what did you mean?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She had nothing left to say. There was no version of this where she came out looking like anything other than a liar, no excuse that would make this go away. I picked up my phone. "By the way, I sent these to your boss." She went still. Her entire body tensed like she was waiting for me to take it back. Waiting for me to say I was bluffing, but I wasn't. She reached for her phone, typing furiously. After a few seconds, her face paled. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. I watched as the realization hit her. This wasn't just about me. She wasn't just losing our marriage. She was losing everything. Her job, her reputation, the carefully built life she thought she could keep while sneaking around behind my back. Her expression shifted, anger replacing panic. "You ruined my life," I met her eyes without hesitation. "No, Rachel, you did that all on your own." She didn't argue. She knew she had nothing left. And I wasn't done yet. Rachel left, but she didn't go quietly. The texts started that night, switching between rage and guilt, trying to get a reaction. One moment she was blaming me, calling me heartless for ruining her life. The next, she was apologizing, asking if we could talk, saying she had made a mistake. I didn't reply. She had made her choices, and now she had to deal with the fallout. I blocked her number and moved on because I still had one final piece of business left to handle: Daniel. So far, he had escaped the consequences, completely unaware that his name was already attached to every piece of evidence I had sent to Rachel's boss. He didn't know that I had spent the last day gathering everything I could about him. And the best part? He had a fiancée. Melissa had found that little detail. While I was focused on Rachel, she had done some digging and discovered that Daniel had been engaged for the past 2 years. His fiancée, Olivia, had no idea what he had been doing behind her back. She thought she was marrying a devoted, successful man who traveled for work. In reality, he had been sneaking around with my wife, booking hotels and spending company money on weekend getaways. Melissa and I met for coffee the next morning. She had been keeping tabs on Alex, who was now officially homeless after she threw his things onto the lawn. Meanwhile, I had spent my time preparing for my final move. Rachel was gone, but Daniel was still out there, walking around like he hadn't just destroyed 2 relationships. That was about to change. "I want to tell Olivia," I said. "She deserves to know." Melissa didn't hesitate. "I'll help." We found Olivia on social media first. She seemed like the kind of person who didn't deserve this. Excitedly posting engagement photos, talking about wedding plans, completely unaware that the man she was supposed to marry was a liar. It would have been easy to send her a message with all the proof, but I wanted this to be in person. She deserved to hear it from someone who wasn't hiding behind a screen. Melissa and I waited until Olivia was at work, then walked right into her office. It wasn't hard to get her attention once we told the receptionist that it was about Daniel's wedding. Within minutes, she was standing in front of us, smiling like she thought we were old friends. Olivia gave us a polite but confused look. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" Melissa glanced at me silently, asking if I wanted to take the lead. I didn't hesitate. "No, but you know my wife, Rachel." Her smile faded instantly. She sat up straighter, eyes narrowing like she was trying to figure out if this was some kind of joke. Melissa didn't give her a chance to ask questions. She slid a folder across the table, her expression unreadable. "You should read this." Olivia hesitated before opening it. At first, her movements were slow, careful, but the moment her eyes landed on the contents, everything changed. Her fingers tightened around the pages as she flipped through them faster. The texts, the photos, the hotel receipts, every disgusting detail was right there in front of her. Her breathing remained steady, her face blank, but I could see the shift happening. She wasn't shocked. She was processing. She didn't cry. She didn't ask if it was a mistake. She just kept reading, eyes scanning over each betrayal like she was trying to commit it all to memory. When she reached the last page, she closed the folder carefully and set it aside. Her voice was steady when she finally spoke. "How long?" "Over a year," I said. She nodded once, staring at the table like she was making a decision in real time. Then, she stood up, pushing her chair back neatly. "I need to go." Melissa and I didn't stop her. We had done what we came to do. Olivia didn't deserve this, but she deserved to know Daniel wasn't going to see this coming. And I was going to enjoy watching him fall. Less than an hour after we left, Olivia took action. She didn't call Daniel. She didn't send him a message demanding an explanation. Instead, she went straight home, grabbed everything he owned and threw it onto the street. Clothes, electronics, shoes, even the expensive watch collection he had bragged about. All of it, dumped on the pavement like trash. She wasn't just kicking him out. She was erasing him. Melissa and I watched from a distance as Olivia moved with quiet determination. The neighbors had started gathering, murmuring amongst themselves, but she didn't seem to care. She worked quickly, tossing his belongings out the front door one after another, making sure there was no trace of him left inside. Once she was finished, she stepped back, scanned the mess in front of her, and without a second of hesitation walked back inside and locked the door behind her. Melissa and I parked a few houses down, watching from a distance. Olivia wasn't crying. She wasn't hesitating. She had flipped from shock to cold, focused rage, and there was no doubt in my mind that when Daniel showed up, he would have nowhere left to go. The neighbors stood outside, whispering, watching as she tossed everything into the dirt. She didn't care. By the time she finished, Daniel's entire life was scattered across the pavement. She locked the door, changed the passcode, and walked back inside without looking back. Melissa checked her phone and smirked. He's on the move. Daniel had been careless. He had never logged out of an old social media account, and Melissa had been tracking his location all day. She predicted that after Olivia threw him out, he would run straight to Rachel. And sure enough, we watched as his little blue dot moved across the city, heading toward the hotel Rachel had checked into. I started the car. Let's go watch the fireworks. We pulled up near the hotel entrance and waited. It didn't take long. Daniel arrived, dragging his suitcase behind him like a pathetic excuse for a man who thought he still had options. He walked inside, probably thinking Rachel was going to welcome him with open arms, that she was his safe haven. What he didn't know was that Rachel was dealing with her own fallout. Melissa and I gave it a few minutes before following. Rachel's name was still on the reservation, so it wasn't hard to get her room number. The elevator ride was silent, tension thick in the air. Melissa was calm, checking her phone, but I was waiting for the moment everything came crashing down on them. When we reached the floor, we didn't knock, we just walked in. Rachel and Daniel were already arguing when we walked in. The second they saw us, the room went silent. Rachel's expression shifted from frustration to shock, while Daniel just stood there waiting for an explanation. Neither of them spoke at first, but I wasn't about to let them regain control of the situation. Rachel's voice was tight. "What are you doing here?" I looked at Daniel. "Olivia says hi." He grabbed his phone, scrolling quickly through his notifications. The second he saw it, his whole stance changed. He turned to Rachel, his voice low. "She threw me out." Rachel clenched her jaw. "I lost my job." Melissa didn't even pretend to be sympathetic. "Damn, tough day for both of you." Daniel looked at Rachel like he was waiting for her to fix this. "We need to figure something out." "There's nothing to figure out," I said. "You destroyed your own lives. Now deal with it." Rachel stepped forward, like she thought there was still a way to change the outcome. "We can talk about this. You made your choice. You don't get to escape the consequences." Daniel turned back to Rachel. "I have nowhere to go." "Neither do I," she said. Melissa didn't even hesitate. "Sounds like a you problem." I turned for the door. "Enjoy the life you chose." Without another word, I walked out, leaving them standing in the mess they created.